Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to tackle a huge question today. How does evil actually begin? We're going to trace the path of one of history's most catastrophic ideologies, not just to look at the what, but to really understand the how. How could one man's personal resentment snowball into a full-blown industrialized system of mass murder? It's a question that really gets under your skin, right? How does a twisted idea in someone's head get so powerful that it becomes national policy and drags a whole continent into darkness? This isn't just the story of one dictator. It's the story of how ordinary things like contempt and ignorance and just looking the other way can become weapons deadlier than any army. And to figure that out, we can't start with a regime. We have to start with a person. So before all the speeches, before the war, before the title Führer, there was just a young man, and his ambition was surprisingly normal. To really get our heads around the monstrous outcome, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, when all of this was just a quiet resentment simmering in the heart of one failed young man. Okay, so our story doesn't start on a battlefield. Not yet. It starts in the vibrant, chaotic, and beautiful city of Vienna, back in the early 1900s. This is where a young Adolf Hitler shows up with a bunch of drawings under his arm and one single, all-consuming dream, long before politics was even on his radar. He wasn't thinking about world wars or death camps, not at all. His biggest dream in the entire world was to paint, to be an artist, to get into the famous Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. That was it. That was the whole plan. But Vienna wasn't impressed. He was rejected. And then he tried again, and he was rejected a second time. The Academy basically told him he just didn't have the talent. And just like that, he's humiliated, he's directionless, wandering the streets, living in homeless shelters, trying to sell postcards to get by. And with every single rejection, every failure, it was like these little embers of bitterness started to build up inside him. So here he is, lost in this huge, bustling city. And it's right there, in that moment of personal failure, that his frustration starts looking for a place to go. The thing is, he wasn't alone. In Vienna at that time, dangerous ideas were literally in the air, just waiting for someone desperate enough to breathe them in. Hitler's resentment started searching for a target. I mean, it's just human psychology, right? It is so much easier to point a finger at someone else for your problems than it is to look in the mirror and face your own shortcomings. And all around him, in political pamphlets and angry speeches, he found the answer. He learned to blame the city's large and often successful Jewish community. They became the perfect scapegoat. And he had a role model, in a way, the mayor of Vienna, a guy named Karl Lueger. Now, Lueger was this incredibly charismatic politician, and he figured out how to masterfully use anti-Semitism to win elections and build power. And Hitler was watching. He was taking notes, and he learned this really crucial and really dangerous lesson. Organized hatred is a powerful political tool. Then, World War I breaks out. And for the first time in his life, Hitler feels like he has a real purpose. He enlists in the German army, he's part of something bigger than himself. But then, Germany loses. And that shock, that deep national humiliation, well, that's what poured gasoline on the fire. See, a lot of Germans, Hitler included, just couldn't accept that they'd been beaten fair and square. So this myth started to spread, this stab-in-the-back myth. The narrative was simple and it was powerful. We didn't lose the war on the battlefield. We were betrayed from within by Jews and communists. It was a complete lie, of course, but for a humiliated nation, it was a lie they desperately wanted to believe. All right, let's jump forward to the 1920s, because this is where things really start to pick up steam. Post-war Germany is a total mess. The economy's in shambles, people are desperate. And in all that chaos, Hitler takes this potent mix of personal and national resentment, and he turns it into a chillingly effective political playbook. He basically boiled hatred down to a 4-step formula. Step 1, give people a clear enemy to blame for everything wrong in their lives. Step 2, put on a massive show, these incredible rallies with flags and uniforms to make people feel like they're part of something strong and important. Step 3, promise to restore national greatness. And the price for all this? Step 4, demand absolute blind obedience. And then, in 1933, it happens. He's appointed Chancellor of Germany. And in that moment, all the hateful rhetoric, all the speeches, it stops being just talk. It becomes the law. He immediately starts dismantling democracy and systematically turning his ideology into official state policy. So once they had total power, the Nazi regime began to build this cold, precise, industrial machine. It was a system designed not just to oppress its enemies, but to eliminate them, systematically, efficiently, and without a trace of emotion. And look, this didn't happen overnight. It was a planned, deliberate process. You can see it on the timeline. It starts small in 1933 with discriminatory laws, isolating people, dehumanizing them. By 1938, it escalates to open violence on the streets. Then by 1939, it's ghettoization, forcing entire populations into walled-off prisons. And finally, in 1942, comes the chillingly bureaucratic term, the final solution, which was just a code for total extermination. And this is where that path ended, at 6 dedicated extermination camps, built mostly in occupied Poland. You have to understand, these places weren't prisons. They were factories designed for death. Places like Auschwitz were planned with the chilling efficiency of engineers, run by doctors and bureaucrats. Every part of it, the trains, the gas chambers, the crematoriums, it was all just a gear in a machine with a sign over the gate that read, "Work sets you free," when the only way out was through a chimney. When the war finally ended in 1945, the story wasn't over, not even close. As Allied soldiers began to liberate these camps, what they found was a horror that was just beyond human imagination. And that discovery left a permanent scar on all of humanity. And for the people who somehow survived, liberation wasn't some magic moment of joy. It was the start of a whole new struggle. Imagine it, your home gone, your entire family murdered, and you're adrift in a world that often didn't want you. This incredible trauma led to so much, to the creation of the State of Israel as a safe haven, to this deep crisis of faith, and to the birth of a new solemn duty, the duty to bear witness, to tell the world what happened. Out of all those ashes, 2 simple words became a global promise, a mantra, a warning to ourselves that we should never, ever allow humanity to fall into such a moral abyss again. But here's the crucial thing. Remembering can't just be about looking backwards. The timeless lesson of the Holocaust is that hatred is a poison that transforms. It changes its disguise. It might wear the mask of politics or ideology or patriotism, but its deadly logic always, always stays the same. So that phrase, never again, it can't just be a slogan we repeat. It has to be an active, urgent commitment. A commitment to recognizing the warning signs, the scapegoating, the disinformation, the fanaticism, when we see them today. A commitment to understanding how easily any modern society can become blind to the horror that's growing right in front of them. Because every time we choose to forget, we open the door just a little crack for history to repeat itself.